Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of A Woman's Prerogative here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and we want to say hello to all of our friends at E360 TV and, of course, all the social media platforms, as well as Amazon, Roku, and Apple. We are really thrilled to have you here today. Our topic is an exciting one. It is, let me see what it is. It's one thing you always do when visiting a new place. So for those of you, it could be traveling, maybe it's around the world, maybe it's someplace in your own community that's new to you. So we're going to discuss this topic. And of course, I'm not alone. We're going to welcome the star of our show. Her name is Mariska, formerly from New Zealand and now in Australia. And she is an ICF and PCC certified coach. She also has another certification that she either just got or is getting. She's also a transformation and leadership wizard. We'll find out more about that. And she is an author as well as a songwriter. Let's welcome Mariska to the program. Come on out. Hello.
Hello. I'm always surprised with the songwriting, seeing as well. It is one tune that has a tendency to stick in your head. And hey, it's a song. I did write a song.
And it's a good song. And, you know, I don't play it as much as I should because when I play it, it comes up with a copyright violation because you, myself, and Madeline, we own the copyrights to it, but it doesn't matter because it still comes up as a copyright. You know, which is fascinating, just as a quick digression. I don't think that either one of us has ever gotten a dime from the royalty company, which is funny. So I don't know how many times it actually has to be played for you to make anything. I think I saw a couple of years ago that we had accrued 25 cents, and I think you have to have $100 before they send it out. So.
We will definitely have to get to play that more often.
Definitely to play it a lot. So you are there in Australia, and today for me is Tuesday. It's Wednesday for you. It's winter for you. It's summer here. It was 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it was a hot one. So let's talk about what it is that you're doing. And by the way, do you have an additional certification or is it forthcoming?
So I have finished my training for my team coaching qualification within the ICF. So what is remaining within that space is basically getting a few more hours within the team coaching space itself, because you need a certain amount of hours to apply at the ICF for your certification via them. So I did the training, went through all of that. I have already coached a couple of teams now, so we're getting on track with our hours within that space as well. So that's very, very exciting. It takes a wee while to get through all of these things. And it is a different type of way of being and service that I can also now provide to the leaders that I serve, because that's what we do as leaders, right? We lead not just ourselves, but also the people around us. And within those teams that we operate within, being able to create something that is human and where we can actually speak to one another and be open and be able to create whatever the thing is that we are creating in the world in a way that is generative for everybody. That is basically the aim of the game, to bring more value into the world in what it is that we do. And yeah, that I can now do with teams too. So yay, that's really good.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. Me too. I am quite relieved. It is a lot of learning that goes into it. And I have to say, there's so many things to take into consideration. As you know, just with having one person you coaching is already a lot of things that we need to sort of take into consideration. Now, add 5 more people to that mix, plus the dynamics in between them and everybody from outside needing, wanting, hoping for things that the team needs to create within their space to add value in the world. And it becomes a very interesting space to be in.
Well, what I love about you is so many things, but you're always doing more in your professional and your personal development. And that says a lot about you. You are not stagnant. You are always open and curious as to what you can do to help your clients and how you can personally and professionally continue to grow. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. And luckily, it is fun. So we are enjoying it as we are growing.
And that's the best, because then it's not work.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's go into the topic. You came up with this topic, which I love. I'd say, what is the topic? And you tell me. That makes it so easy for me because I don't have to think of one. So thank you. So the topic is one thing you always do when visiting a new place. So when you were thinking of this topic, were you thinking a new place as somewhere even where you live? Maybe you go to a new restaurant or a new store, or were you thinking specifically when you're traveling?
Well, I was thinking a bit of both, really, because for me, so I know some people don't like new things too much. They like their routine, right? So the new thing might be when they're going to the restaurant and they're seeing the menu and trying something new on the menu. Who knows? As well as, well, when you go on a holiday, right? You are hopefully going to a place that you don't typically visit. And that might then include you enjoying something very specific for that holiday. I know one of my friends, whenever they go and visit a new town, so if they go to a new town where they want to holiday, they go and look for a mini golf course in that town. Now, not all of them have mini golf courses, but when they find a new one, they will go and play mini golf at that new mini golf space. So that's something that normally they will go and look for and see whether they can find one. And if there is one available, that's something that they would like to do. And that's sort of what got me onto this, as well as, well, in our previous episode, we talked about travel in general, right? Going and traveling and doing things that might take you into places that is new. So I thought, I'm wondering whether Dr. Jacalyn has things that when you go to a new place, which, well, going to the UK and the rest of Europe, new places, right? If there's something that you enjoy doing when going to new places. So it was just me being curious.
Well, I have to say this. If I'm traveling somewhere, the first thing I need to find out is where can I work out? That is huge. That is a priority, because if I can't work out, I am not going to be a happy person. So that's usually the first thing that I'll find out. But I like to ask the local people where they recommend going, just for various things, whether it's for a restaurant or for sightseeing. I'm not a big sightseeing person. I do sightsee, but I'm not someone who's going to spend an entire trip on a tour bus or one at the top of a bus, like waving to people. That's not going to be my thing. But I do like to ask local people, what would you recommend? Like, what are 2 or 3 things that you recommend in your city, in your town, in your country?
Ooh, I like that. And that's the one thing that you will then be going to visit, right? It is finding out what's a good place to visit and then going to visit it. I have to agree with the finding out from the locals, because I'm also not on the top of the bus going for the commercial tours, not my thing. I love looking for little hidden places. So places that typically you will have more locals hanging out in. I love those places. They have a tendency to be warm and inviting. It's easier to feel belonging. I know this sounds weird, but yes, that from my experience, that is something that happens when you find these little hidden gems. And you never know what you will discover when you go to them. I remember down in Invercargill, I don't think the restaurant exists anymore. It was a small place called Zookeepers. It had a corrugated iron elephant in front of the little coffee shop. And I loved going there. I absolutely loved going there. And in Hamilton, there was another coffee shop that you actually had to go in a fairly narrow laneway, and then it opens up into almost like a courtyard type of thing. And it had a very French feeling to it for me, in any case, because you had plants and all sorts of things in there. And then, of course, the aroma of coffee hanging in the area as well, because you have the coffee shop close by. And it was a very small, quirky place. So it doesn't have the capacity to take a whole bunch of a tourist group from a bus. But going in there, firstly, you had to go through the small little alleyway. And then you don't know what you will find on the other side of it, right? But there's this magical small little place inside, which I just absolutely adored. So loved going for coffee in that space too. So yes, and I would not have found them if I didn't go exploring and asking people about where would be good places to go and visit.
Absolutely, because people who are local are going to know things that you're not going to find in guidebooks, for example. And, that's another thing that I'll do. I'm not someone who likes to leave reviews, but I will look at reviews. I absolutely check reviews before I make a purchase. If I go on Amazon, I'll read the reviews. If I'm going to stay somewhere, I read the reviews. And if there's 1 or 2 that are unkind or, pretty much this place is a nightmare, then I look to see exactly why was it a nightmare, and have there been any more recent reviews where someone refuted what the person said, because everybody can have an off day, an off whatever it might be. So that's something that I really look for, is reviews. So before I visit a new place, I will read the reviews, if it's for a restaurant, whatever it is.
I agree. Reviews are very good friends. And I will also do the same as you. If there is, so what I typically do is I look at any patterns in the reviews. So people will typically mention that they have really good food, poor service, or whatever the thing might be, right? As well as looking at the dates. So the date stamps, because it might be that they had a problem, got fixed, and now it's not a problem anymore. So a lot of the not so good reviews are very old reviews, and then the newer ones looks a lot better. Or the other way around, I found that too. You get ones that really good reviews, and then the later, or the ones that's closer to the time that I'm in at the present, not so good, because potentially they had a management change, something happened in their system that caused it, So yes, reviews definitely, especially when it comes to food. I'm with stuff like rides and experiences and things like that. I would glance through the reviews just to get a general sense around the customer service. But as to the event itself, things like that, I'm not too worried about. That's more a up to me thing. But for restaurants, I am definitely a lot more conscious of what works, what doesn't work. If a specific dish gets a lot of hype for whatever reason, people really, really enjoy that dish, I might go to the restaurant and specifically try that dish. Or if there's a specific dish that people don't enjoy for whatever reason, then I would make sure to avoid said dish. So restaurants, definitely reviews is your friend, I have found. Very, very helpful. And interestingly enough, Dr. Jacalyn, I also don't normally leave reviews. Typically, it needs to be really, really good or really, really bad for me to leave a review. And I've had the one experience with a guide in Sydney. So what happened in that space, and that's something that I've also started to incorporate as one thing that I would typically want to do when I go to visit a new place, especially when it is some space or place with history, is to see whether there's any historical type of tours, preferably a walking tour, if possible, in a specific area with somebody that has knowledge of it. And the reason why I do this is because I've had such a great experience with somebody in Sydney. So this specific tour guide had his master's, I think, in criminal history, and specifically criminal history within the Sydney space. So as we walked within the space itself, he was able to tell us more about the place, the people that used to live there, how the city itself developed, where you have specific landmarks. And I really, really appreciated it because it gave me a deeper appreciation of the place. And it made me feel more connected to the place, knowing all of these things and seeing all of these different things. So we did something similar in Melbourne. The type of tour was a bit different. And the person that took us through that tour didn't have such an in-depth understanding of the history of the place itself. So the type of tour was a little bit different, but I still enjoyed it. So that's something that I think, now that we're talking about it, I will definitely add to my list of things to do. One thing that I want to be doing when I'm going to visit a new place, because it helps me to connect to the place, which I didn't think about before, or even before I came up with a topic.
Well, I love what's coming up for you. That's terrific. I think something else for me that I would typically do every time I visit a new place until it got to be cost prohibitive is that I would buy a piece of clothing, and then I'd be able to say, oh, I got that in Paris. I got that wherever it is. So we'll see when I go on this trip if I will be doing that or not. But I think it is nice to have things from other places because if there's some memory associated with it, and then you can look at it later and say, yeah, I got that when I was wherever, or I was celebrating something, so I got it.
Yes, some form of memento or an artifact of some sort. And you mentioned clothing. I would most probably go for, might be clothing. It might be, I've got a few scarves. I've got a few shirts. And they're not necessarily always things that I can have close by. So I also have some figurines, I have pens, I have magnets as well. So yes, something to have a memento. And I'm sure as you will be all over the place during your trip, it might add up.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, I only have a limited amount of space to carry things, so we'll see. But we actually, yeah, just a small place. We actually are at the time to take a commercial break. So we're going to hear from one of our sponsors. And today we're going to hear from Tracy Cram-Perkins, actually a testimonial about Tracy's book called Dementia Home Care. And the person giving the testimonial is also named Tracy. So let's take a look and a listen, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio. You're watching A Woman's Prerogative on USA Global TV and Radio. Welcome back, Sisterhood Across Borders. I'm here in the United States, and the star of our show is in Australia. Mariska, please come back and join me for the rest of our show. Hello.
Hello, and I am so glad that we have that ad. Well, testimonial from Tracy about Tracy's work, because I know that there's quite a few people that struggle with dementia care, and I know that it's something that's been in my family too. So as I was watching that, I was thinking, that might be a very wise book to have on my shelves, and hopefully, if ever it happens to me, should I be the one to need the care, I'd remember to read the book.
Well, it's interesting because my sister and I each had a copy of this book, and we really leaned on it a lot when we were caring for my mother, especially in the last month. And after she passed away, I donated the book to someone else who was going through something with their family member. So Tracy actually took care of 4 family members with dementia. And so she really is an expert. And the book, it's the way that it's laid out, it has sort of big font, and then in the corner of each chapter is a summary of what you can find in there. And then at the very end, she's got a whole, I don't know how many pages of resources that you can, phone numbers and addresses. So when I saw her last on her last show, I think her next one's coming up next week, but she had already sold 17,000 copies of her books. So just for people who don't know, selling 100 copies of your book is a miracle, unless you're a New York Times bestselling author, you know. So I give her a lot of credit, and she's been really able to help so many people because it seems to be very prolific. It seems to be everywhere. Somebody in their family, somebody knows somebody who has it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, just thinking about a friend that I have at the moment, that the dad is going through it. And it's not something that necessarily gets discussed that often in general conversations, like how is the person? We don't really ask about the rest of the situation or how things might be with the specific carer within that space as well. So very good resource. Always good to know where to get these types of resources.
Absolutely. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's around the world, and also on her website, Tracy Cram Perkins. So today we're discussing one thing you always do when visiting a new place. And we've talked about a few things. So will you, if you're going to a new place, will you be open to trying something that you never did that maybe is indigenous to the area? So what am I thinking of? So I'm thinking that some places they have this, these zip lining things, right? Zip lining, bungee jumping. Are they things that you would ever do?
I think it depends on the thing.
How about bungee jumping?
As you were talking about that, the thing that came up for me was eating weird stuff, which I may or may not do, but depending on the thing that is being offered. So bungee jumping, not a fan of heights, not so sure about bungee jumping. Zip lining, however, yes, I am not a fan of heights, although that sounds like fun. Go figure, right? I don't know what the hell's going on in my brain. Something, evidently. So it absolutely depends on what it is. I would like to give it a go, try it out. As I said, food-wise, I'm a little bit more cautious. I might try it if it looks like it could be appetizing and it smells really good. I'm averse to things that burn, so I do not like very spicy foods. So if it is very spicy, no thank you. You can give that to my husband. He will enjoy it. Me not much. And then, of course, if it's something that looks like it might be undercooked in any way, shape, or form,
still living,
I must probably avoid it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't eat meat. It's not that I'm against meat. I don't know. It's just not my thing. And I always feel like it's so heavy. And the only kind of meat that I actually would like, if it's red meat, it's something that we had in college, and we used to call it slop. And you would fry up some ground beef, and then you would add a can of either cream of mushroom soup or cream of celery soup. So you mix that all in. And then in the meantime, you boil some water and you put in these little elbow noodles. They're like a little C. And then you put them in there, and then you put American cheese on top and melt it. And it's called slop. So I always liked slop, but that's the only thing. I'm not a steak person. I'm not going to eat venison. I have had frog's legs. That was a long time ago. And it was actually sad because you can see the little legs. It looks like they just, but they're very good. They're very, especially there's like a little calf muscle. And, but I don't know, you just can't really do it. It just, I feel so bad. I'm not a fan of frogs, but just have their legs cut off so you can eat them.
I've always wondered, what do they do with the rest of the frog?
Maybe they stuff it and put it on a wall. I have no idea. But think about how wasteful that is to kill it, and then you're not using the rest of it.
I think that's why I was wondering, what do they do with the rest of the frog? I'm not sure whether any of the rest of the frog is usable. Might not be. But I was wondering about the rest of the frog. For me, in general, I don't mind meat. I'm an avid meat eater. And I would try most meats, not a problem with it. Coming from South Africa, of course, we've had a whole bunch of, I know in general, people like venison. Yes. No. Venison is a group name for all meats that is wild.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Venison it's not a specific meat. It is wild meat. So to give you an idea, in Australia, you get kangaroo in the shop. You can actually buy kangaroo the same way you would buy steak. Right.
Wow.
So they have kangaroo available in the shop. in South Africa, depending on where you go, of course, you can get different types of buck. So antelope, kudu, eland, depending on what it is, you can get that. Not necessarily always in shops, more speciality type of shops would have them. And they all taste different. So if I remember going to New Zealand, they said, oh yeah, we have venison. I'm like, okay, so what animal is that? And in New Zealand, it is basically reindeer. So a deer of some sort. I think it's red deer, and there's another one. The other thing with their venison is they farm it the same way that you would farm cattle. So they have them on a piece of land, and they fairly tame-ish in that space. So they eat as wild as they eat, but it's not a wild meat the way that I'm used to wild meat. So it's interesting to hear people say venison, and then if I ask them what animal it is, they have no idea what animal it is. So venison is a group name for any wild meat, any game meats. One of the other things that you can also do, so in South Africa, if you go to a game reserve, they would typically have some delicacies around game meats, and then there's different types. And I have never had crocodile, and I would love to actually taste crocodile. The only thing about crocodile is it never has enough salt, no matter how much salt you actually put onto it. And crocodile meat is also the type of meat that you can keep on eating and eating and eating till literally you burst, almost, because it never saturates you. You don't feel full from crocodile meat, which I also found very, very interesting. So yes, as for snake, I don't know whether I'll eat snake. I know that's something that happens in the Asian cultures. And I'm also not sure about bugs. Dr. Jacalyn, have you ever eaten a bug?
I have not. I have not, but this is something I think is interesting. So I am a big fan, although I don't watch it really anymore, of Law and Order. And there was one, do you have Law and Order there?
Yes, I think so.
And there was one episode where this fashion designer was known for making jewelry out of live roaches. So the roach would be a brooch, and it would be live, and then have diamonds and rubies and things on it. And I thought, yeah, that is, first of all, it seems, I'm not a fan of roaches, but putting pins and glue and things on them, and then I don't know. But I think in certain countries, people fry roaches. I know people eat grasshoppers. That's a delicacy. So I don't think I've ever had a bug. I have had alligator, and that was, I'm talking like the alligator and the frog's legs. There was a certain restaurant I used to go to with my parents, and my dad's been gone since 2012. So it was a long time ago. So I don't eat that now. I eat pretty much the same food every day.
So how did you find alligator? Was it good?
There was a restaurant that we used to go to as a family, and they specialized in a number of things, two of which were frog's legs and alligator. And they served the alligator with this really nice sauce. I don't know what it was, but it was really tasty. And I don't know what part of the alligator it was. Just like when you were saying about a kangaroo, like what part of the meat is it? What part of its body is it?
Well, I have no idea. I am guessing most probably the hind quarter would be the most meat. Because if you look at a kangaroo, they have fairly big hind legs, not thinking that the front legs will have loads of meat on it. If it's a male kangaroo, potentially the chest might have quite a bit of meat on it, and then the tail. The cuts that I've seen, so they don't have any specific cuts like you would have on beef. And the ones that I saw, mostly red meat. So it's dark red meat. I also remember in South Africa, so this is something that you do get in the shops more often, is ostrich. So you can get ostrich meat, really, really good meat. And it's also a red meat because the legs, so if you think about a chicken, right? Chicken typically has white meat in its breast, but the legs are technically speaking red meat, as well as the wings, I think.
Yes.
It's more the chesty, breasty body area that's white. So the same goes for ostrich. And of course, the biggest amount of meat in ostrich is the legs, because they have very, very big legs. So you have a lot of red meat on ostriches as well. Which I've eaten ostrich before. They're not too bad.
What would you compare it to?
I don't think there's a meat that quite tastes like ostrich other than ostrich. It's almost like trying to compare springbok and kudu and eland to like a cow or a sheep. They have very specific tastes of all of them. So the springbok they all have a wild taste to them. So if you don't like strong meats, don't eat it. Your springbok is a lot more tame in the sense that it doesn't have a very strong flavor. Kudu, I enjoy. It has a stronger flavor, but it's a flavor I enjoy eating. So it's a good meat. Eland, I'm not a huge fan. So eland is one of the biggest antelope that you get. And they are, I think, I'm speaking under correction, they're about 2.5 times as big as a cow. They are huge. And they typically live in arid or semi-arid environments. So you'll find them in deserts. And I don't know, that's one meat that even though it's a big amount of meat that you can get from one of them, not a fan of the meat though. So I don't know whether it is because of where they live, how they metabolize things, what they eat. I do know in South Africa, if ever you guys travel there and you are finding yourself in the Karoo, do go and get some Karoo sheep or lamb. It's really, really good. It's really good. And again, if you are not a fan of meat with a strong taste, rather not, because it does have a significantly different tastes from other meats. Is really good meat though, because those sheep, specifically the places where they go for food, is in the fynbos areas, which means the type of food that they eat actually flavors their meat as they grow. So it's almost like having a slowly marinated piece of meat that ate its own marination as it grew up. And then you get to cook it and you don't need to put a lot of stuff with it. You can literally do salt and pepper and you have a really good piece of meat. So yeah, as for grasshoppers, I know that they use that for protein. So if ever you get stuck in the bush for whatever reason and you need protein and you need to eat something, grasshoppers, good source of protein. Whether I would eat them, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard no for me. But we're actually at the end of this episode. It's just flown by like all the other ones. So what's the best way for people to reach you, Mariska, and how would you like them to reach out?
So best way to reach me is either via my email, which is Mariska, Mariska, @ journey2, the number 2, discover.com. Or alternatively, you can also find me on LinkedIn. So this is my website. You can also find me on my website, which is journeytodiscover.com, JOURNEY, 2, discover.com. Alternatively, you can also find me on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn, I'm Mariska du Preez, and there you go. If you see that little face in the circle, it's me. And we can start our conversation there. Just do a direct message, nice and easy, and we can be off to the races. And that, of course, is if you are a leader, that person thinking about leadership, stepping into that space, moving up in your career, or you are already a leader and you want to elevate your game and be the leader that you wish you had. Please do contact me.
Thank you so much, Mariska, and thank you so much to our worldwide audience. We'll be back next week with another wonderful topic. So we're going to close out now. We wish you a beautiful evening, a beautiful morning, beautiful afternoon, and we're going to go over to one of our sponsors. And this sponsorship is the Lady Ella, Lord Jack, Kindness Adventures song. Let's take a look and a listen, and we'll see you all back soon. Bye.
Bye.
Lady Ella flies up high, spreading kindness through the sky. With Lord Jack right by her side, through the world they glide. They listen close, they understand, helping creatures in the land. With open hearts, they lend a hand. Come along, come and see. Kindness starts with you and me. Listen close, hear the sound. Kindness makes the world go round. Goo goo gaga, goo goo gaga. So spread your wings and soar so high, like Lady Ella in the sky. With Lord Jack we'll always stay, listening and kindness light the way.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.